I'm Vivian Wei. I've had many AI heroes and also AI headaches. And I've seen many millions of dollars of breakthroughs, as well as millions of dollars of flops. If you're leading an enterprise company today, you know this. AI is not just a tool. It's actually a test of leadership, organizational culture, and execution. That's why I created this show, AI Heroes and Headaches. This is where I'll be hosting senior executives as well as builders of AI companies. We're going to be having heart-to-heart conversations about what are some of the important lessons learned, leadership transformation stories, of how people created a lot of value for their business, as well as where some of the hard-earned lessons are. Because there is a lot of AI hype, but at the end of the day, where the opportunity unlocks is how we create the impact and value on our business as well as the community. So join me in getting an inside the agentic enterprise first view look. This is where we're going to be sharing the playbook of how you drive success within your company and pivot to become an agentic enterprise. Subscribe and join me in this conversation. And I'm hoping that I can help you create a lot of value for your business. Morning, MK. So good to see you. Hello from New York. Where are you at today?
Hey, morning, Vivian. I'm dialing from Seattle.
Fantastic. So I'm so excited to have you on the first episode of AI Heroes and Headaches. I started this podcast really to give some context. A lot of my C-suite friends and CIOs and CEOs are asking, hey, what are people learning from all this agentic transformation work? What are some of the things that are working? What are some of the things that are not working? So super honored to have you as the first guest. Maybe before we start, tell us a little bit about your role at Salesforce.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Vivian. I'm honored to be on the first podcast of the series. So, wishing you the very best in your podcast lineup. Uh, just to introduce myself, I go by Muralidhar Krishnaprasad, also MK, as I'm sort of known locally here. I've been at Salesforce about 7+ years. Prior to that, I was at Microsoft for a long time, building a lot of the Azure foundational services, Dynamics, and others. And before that, I started my career back at Oracle, building databases as an architect. Coming back, what I do here is a president CTO for engineering. I run the core platform products for Salesforce. So that means the core platform, the data cloud, the agentic layer that binds all together, and of course, MuleSoft, which gives you all the APIs, Heroku, which gives you a container thing, and Tableau that gives you all the analytics that go with it. So overall, together, we call this the unified Agentforce platform, a very unique thing in the world, which brings all of these capabilities to offer you unparalleled agentic capabilities.
And maybe tell us a little bit about like what's the difference between an AI agent and agentic AI platform that you just described? What problems did you set out to like solve?
Yeah, great question. So I think if we break it down, what does any agent need? An agent, so I think Patrick Stokes, who runs our marketing, has this great thing which he said, if you really think about an LLM, LLMs are kind of like, think of them as chips in your computer. You need a very powerful chip, but a chip alone doesn't make your computer, right? You need a hard drive or disk or something. You need a network. You need like all the peripherals. You need memory. You need like your monitor and so on. So that's really what makes it really work. Similar to that, to really have a strong agent, yes, you do need a good LLM behind the scenes, but you need a lot more to make it real, particularly for an enterprise scenario. Starting with data, right? Like it's not public. Your enterprise data is your sort of crown jewel. And you need information about your customers, whether it's a sales information, whether they open your emails, whether they visit your website, what the orders they purchase, all of that, right? Or if it's an employee, their HR's back-end data stuff, their pay stubs, their performance, and all of those. And so that's one corpus of stuff. And then you have actions you have to go take. Things like updating the records, deleting the records, right? Adding new quantities of orders, etc. Then you want to really look at the business scenario that you want that agents to be in, which are things like, okay, I'm in the context of a sales, so I need to do an SDR, I need to go talk to my prospects. Or maybe you are doing a service scenario, in which case you are acting as a service representative, helping sort of solve those service problems. Or you're in the marketing domain, you're trying to go create new campaigns, understand which customer will respond to what, and so on and so forth, right? So you need then the application know-how, including verticals like healthcare, auto, and so on. And then finally, you want to put all this together so that you can actually use the LLM to go drive reasoning around this. So that's really what makes up an agent together. It's like a wholesome computer, if you may.
Mhm.
And so, like I said, you need data, you need AI, you need
Yeah.
sort of a platform that binds together with security, metadata, etc.
Yep.
You then need all the applications and context of what it is, and then that reasoning stack that can put all this together. That's really what we call as the unified Agentforce platform.
Yeah, that
And
sounds amazing.
to your question, simple agents that you keep hearing about are just what is it? Just agent, which is just, oh, yep, I can take something random data and just like call something, call some APIs and does a cool demo. But really, if you want an agentic enterprise
Mhm.
that you want to really make agents work for your business, either for your employees or your customers, you need all of this and you need them integrated. Otherwise, you will all be time you'll be spending is just putting things together rather than
Mhm.
focusing on the core thing of solving your customer problem.
Yeah, this really resonates with me. If I were to wear like a CEO hat or a COO hat, right? If I think about running the entire enterprise, I want my marketing to be driving sales. Then once I commercialize, like lock in the deal, I want my customers to be supported. And every single one of that touch point, ideally, the agent will have enough information to then take the actions. And it sounds like a big difference is, with the agentic AI system, you have that centralized kind of data layer across the entire customer 360. Whereas, like, if it's a point solution, like an AI agent, I mean, I would have to figure out how to plug in that agent into that broader data layer.
Correct. In fact, that's why we've seen, right? You've been in many customer conversations where they've spent years building with some of our competitive sort of agents, if you may, and then they find that, yeah, they have an agent, but it's not practically useful, right? Or you might be seeing all these customers spend millions building all this great data solutions independently, but they're not of any use because they're not attached back to sort of the customer experience. So we kind of provide all three, right?
Yep.
Integrate data, integrate APIs, bring it all together with a strong metadata foundation,
Yep.
have all the context for the applications in terms of sales, service, marketing, and verticals,
Yep.
then put it all in an agentic envelope
Yeah.
to sort of bring reasoning.
Yeah, and I think a lot. The other question I keep getting asked about is on security, right? Our attack surface is getting broader with
Yes.
IoT and all these agents that are being created across different silos in any enterprise. So, how do you think about our approach to security?
Our approach to security has been comprehensive, right? Even from the very first thing when we created Salesforce as a SaaS application. If you remember, at those times, it'll be funny for the Gen Z kids, you may be surprised to learn, people were scared about putting things online. And so Salesforce really broke the barrier, if you may, to say you can actually put your sales data online, your service data online. And so trust has been an integral part of making our business tick. And so it's no different when it comes to AI. And like you said, with AI, it becomes even more comprehensive. So it starts off at a very grounding level. First of all, like I said, trust is our number one value in Salesforce. It starts off
Mhm.
right at the foundational level. We call it the hyperforce layer, where we add all the traditional things like encryption on rest and making sure every sort of access to it is all audited, monitored, restricted, and so on. And so that forms the basis of our foundation. And then we have sort of our platform layers that create all the users, authentication, all of those sort of levels, so that to make sure, okay, who you are and what you're authorized to do. That forms a second bedrock. And then you have the data cloud. That's we've just added a new thing called AI-based data governance, where now you can connect any of your data pieces from wherever you may have, and then it effectively allows you to create a new policy-based access mechanism at scale. So if it's a PII data, and let's say
Mm-hmm.
maybe you're not authorized to see PII data, you could create very easily such policies so you won't be able to go see them. And then on the API front, we have full API governance and security through sort of both MuleSoft and our external APIs catalog in the platform, which also offers you that sort of level. And then you get into the agentic sort of level where you basically can also mark every agent just like a user, so it actually has a context. If it's an employee agent, your context passes through. If it's an external agent, you can mark it like a user, give it all the permissions, privileges, etc. And
Mm-hmm.
finally, then you have the what we call as a channels layer, which then allows you to interact with the surface. If it's a website, then you can do authentication through website, or if it's from SMS or email, you have those authentication authorization mechanisms. So with all this, along with our Einstein trust layer that makes
Yeah.
sure no data or PII and others go to LLMs, we believe we have one of the most comprehensive, if not the most comprehensive security apparatus for AI as well.
Yeah.
And all fails, we
Mm-hmm.
also have alerts built right in along with logging and analytics, so you can actually see what's going on with your agent. If somebody's trying to go hack into your agents, or somebody's trying to sort of trick your agents, you can see all of that stuff and alert on that as well.
Yeah, in the cyberspace, we always talk about defense in depth. And I think what you've just described is we built a fortress and there are multi layers of security and at every single layer with a very thoughtful approach. I
That's
think the other thing, what really stood out is you mentioned trust, right? Like that's our number one value from
correct.
Mark when the company was started 25 years ago. And now we've kind of built trust into the system.
That's correct. And trust is part and parcel of everything we do, right? Trust in all aspects. It's not just about technological, but even trust with our customers, making sure we're open, transparent. And so building that takes a long time. It's easy to sort of lose it. That's why we're always on top of it.
Yeah, and that's so important because I feel like nowadays, especially in the consumer brands,
Yes.
establishing that trust with your end user is so important because
Right.
otherwise, like they don't want to give up their data, right? You don't
That's
know
correct.
who
You just
who's
see
what.
saw what happened just this week, right? With that app that was just storing everything in open public buckets that everybody could see. So it's,
My
you might
goodness.
call that the app, as you might have heard it.
Yeah, it's a huge security risk. So okay, maybe talk now, your entire organization. We reached that 90% AI adoption within 3 weeks. From every conversation I've had with CIOs, they're amazed by what we have accomplished. Tell us a little bit about that journey. What were the top three things that you think we did right to get to this outcome?
In general, any new tool that we introduce is always hard, right, for people to sort of adopt because, first of all, there is skepticism. Second, there is an inertia to change. And third, there is a little bit of disbelief, right? All three. And that's no different than a new tool like this, where particularly developers tend to be the most skeptical because they're very logical. They're like, okay, does it really going to help my thing
Okay.
on a day-to-day basis? So when we started and we added sort of some of the AI tools, initially when we had tried, those tools were not very good. Like they were giving some help, but the big feedback I heard from a lot of people at that time when we were trying to push was, you know what, it's actually getting bad output. So much so, it's taking me more time to go fix it. I would rather just do it myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was an element of a skepticism that built up because early on we were trying some not fully sort of baked tools too early in the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we got some obviously advances with things like the new cloud models with like Cursor, with Windsurf, and or other things, and also our own sort of uh, technologies which had improved with better LLMs,
Mm-hmm.
then introduction was a challenge because when we would go say, hey, go use it, people were like, well, I tried it, didn't work before. And so I think we had to bolster a few things. One is we had to show examples of other success. So we started with a smaller thing,
Mm-hmm.
with a smaller trial team, and they saw huge sort of improvements, right? Either generating tests or other things. And then we started putting it into particular things. For example, we had to go migrate a lot of tests from one format to the other. And then the team saw what would take 75 days was able to be done in a day or two, right? And then so
Mhm.
huge wins. And so we had to first talk about those, saying this is new, this
Mhm.
is better, here's some proof points for it. And then of course we had to do a little bit of a push to say, hey, you guys should at least try once, right? I want to get 90% usage in a week, where I'm not pushing you to anything, at least try. I think those three really help, because when people actually then tried the new thing, they saw, oh my God, it actually helps me
Right.
in so many different ways. And then you, for example, started this awesome thing, which was like a weekly lunch and learn like thing series, where people started to then exchange, saying, you know what, I tried this and
Yes.
it helped me in this way. I
Yes.
think that created sort of the groundswell where there was like a good
Mhm.
positive competition where people are like, hey, I want to go talk to the
Yeah.
rest of my team about this new finding. I think that sort of built up that momentum, so that because it's easy to get 90% and then like a week later it's going to go back to zero.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So you need to keep that practice. And
Mhm.
so what sort of we created in terms of that weekly show.
AI thought like, right? Like doing the best dish with the best use cases and good results and impact. And then everybody else is like, how do I make the same dish and make it even better next
Even
time?
better, exactly. And so that's, and now it's endemic, right? Now we don't have to worry about it. See, once
Right.
it gets into your daily habit,
Hmm.
then you know you're good, right? Uh,
Yeah.
they don't have to worry about it. So that's kind of how we achieve. So first, we tried, first, our mistake was trying something a little too early where we pushed hard. I think that was a lesson learned, because that created a little bit of a skepticism. So
Hmm.
when the right thing came, it was, we had to push a little bit more. But I think once we pushed it beyond where people tried, they loved it, and then you need to keep sustaining through
Hmm.
these potlucks.
Yeah. And then I think, talk to us a little bit about your role, right? Like
Yeah.
your CTO, and what were the couple of things you did? What would be your advice to a CTO who's like, hey, I really want to drive this 90%
Yeah.
adoption and even higher?
Yeah, I think it's a good one. I think it's not just about the 90% adoption in general of your products. And it's something I was just talking to another CTO just last week. They
Mhm.
took it to heart as well, which is, I think as leaders, often what happens is as you rise up the ranks, you tend to lose focus of what you're doing in the end, meaning you're still building a product for delighting your customers.
Mhm.
People then often tend to get into the more process side of things and forget to get hands on.
Yes.
And that means they get far removed from what's really happening. So, my biggest advice to everybody, and what I did myself, maybe serendipitously, is to really use the product on a day to day basis. So, what I had created was an org, which an org is Salesforce terms. It's basically, think of it as
Mhm.
a workspace work group, but
Yep.
basically where we are able to go get every feature enabled on it, where I use that as my primary demo mechanism when I'm talking to a customer.
Mhm.
And that really helped me in many ways, because I now know what the feature is. So when I'm talking to some customer, I can be confident because I know exactly how it works.
Mhm.
Equally, I know a feature actually works, because we want to make sure
Right.
every feature first comes through that org. And it's probably one of the most complex orgs that we've created. Um, I think that to me was a good lesson. You need to be hands on so you
Yep.
can be confident about the product. You can be confident
Mhm.
talking to your own employees about your product, because you know
Yep.
what works and doesn't work. And third, I think it also gives a sense of pride to all the employees, because they know your
Mhm.
sort of manager or boss kind of uses your stuff that you built, right?
Yep.
It's not just forgotten in some slideware, but it's actually being used. And lastly, it also sets an example for your own leadership that
Mhm.
that they should be doing this too, right?
Yes. Yes.
So to me, so that, in my opinion, helps a lot overall, both for the organization as well as your customers and others. And was also one big thing that helped me personally, right? When we were building some of these things, to say, okay, how
Mhm.
can AI be used directly in these things? Whether it's creating the agents, whether creating different agents, for example, for our daily use, for our employee use, and all that kind of stuff, using it on a day to day basis is what really
Mhm.
helped me. And that's the same advice I would give other CTOs too.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I have so many thoughts. The first one is you really put yourself in the shoes of the customer.
Yep.
What could they be experiencing? What are the AI delight moments based on the experience they have with our product? You live through it. And in fact, I think one of your superpower is really like experiencing the product and highlighting, hey, this is what really is going to make a huge difference for the CTO and their entire organization, and communicate that better back to the customers as well.
Right.
And the second component I really love about this is the fact that when you use the product, and sometimes you actually text our teams, and there's like, hey, why is this not working? Right? You're holding ourselves accountable to the highest level of standards.
Correct.
It's really like we're becoming increasingly critical for providing the agents in the flow of work.
Yep.
And when you make
It's
sure,
a joke we used to refer CTO's chief test officer. So I end up finding out those corner case bugs too. So
I love that. And then I think the third component is really this AI native leadership.
right.
What you're describing is, in this moment in time, we're in the agentic AI era. There is no time to just sit in the ivory tower. You have to get hands on, be in the weeds with the customer, with our customers, and also with our teams, to
Correct.
be on the front line. And that's what's going to make the next level of leaders like agentic and also forward thinking.
Yep. Totally.
And that's a huge game changer.
Yeah. I think, and I think to your point, it's three things, right? One is an agentic thing starts with all of us believing in how agents are transforming our own day-to-day work, right? Not just the work we do, but even the work we do for our customers. So that's why customer zero is a very, very big thing for us. As you know, customer zero, what we mean by that is running our own software for servicing our own customers' needs. Very few companies kind of do this. It's kind of ironic, but we here in Salesforce take that as a deep mantra. And so our sales runs on a sales cloud, our service runs on a service cloud, right? All our data is stored in data cloud. Our agents are all running on Agentforce, marketing, sales, I mean, everything. And so that has also taught us a lot. And we didn't dwell on it, but for example, just putting an agent on service help.service really made us learn what works and what doesn't work. And that's what enabled us to then go build better agents, if you may. Right. And same thing for our own employees. What we tried it with Slack, right? Having agentic engineering agents and so on, that helped us understand, oh, this is what works for helping with our support channels, right? And we're now productized as employee agents and so on. So that's one sort of category. And second is, like you said, really talking to our customers in a very, very deep way, understanding their technical challenges, and then making sure our products can kind of blend into that and fit into their enterprise sort of surroundings. Number three is, I think, Vivian, something that you sort of started as well, which is, I think, when we have forgotten that part of AI transformation is not just about technical transformation; it's about people transformation too. Our help.salesforce wasn't successful just because we had some technology. We also had to sort of reimagine ourselves, create these agent supervisors, kind of people who are understanding, looking at the agent on a day-to-day basis, understanding what our customer needs, creating new sort of roles. We didn't have names for them, but effectively people went into those roles to go make those happen, right? And so there is a people transformation aspect as well that we ourselves have gone through. And I think that's an important ingredient in this sort of AI journey as a company.
Yeah, speaking of people transformation, that is so important. I know we're coming up on time, but I do want to fire up like 5 rapid fire questions about you and get to know you a bit better, because I think what you exemplify from a agentic AI leadership mindset perspective can be learned so much
Yeah.
from others. So the first question, around curiosity, you're so inquisitive. What's a recent rabbit hole you went down just for the joy of learning, whether it's technical or otherwise?
Oh my God, so many different things. I think on the technical side, I would say, I think the big data center that Elon tried to create,
Mm-hmm.
it's fascinating to learn what it means to go create such massive data centers where even a small fluctuation in energy levels can actually cause your AI model training to kind of stop. So that was a deep rabbit hole that I learned a lot that I didn't know before. So that was fascinating.
Super interesting. Okay, now next question is around faith. We go to temples around the world, whether
Yes.
it's in Japan or Chicago. What's the one principle from your spiritual life that grounds your leadership in tech?
Yeah, I would say two things, and this is applicable to everybody, right? I think you're always going to go have ups and downs in your life. When you're down, I think what I keep in heart is what my dad always used to say, which is everything that's happening is happening for the good. So keep that sort of faith
Mhm.
in heart. You know you will get through this, and maybe whatever is happening is the right thing to push you on a different trajectory. And then when you're in the high, when things are going great, I think this is where I turn back to what Krishna said in the Gita: don't get attached to yourself, or what even Buddha said the same,
Mhm.
which is don't attach yourself
Mhm.
to sort of success or failures. Let it, give it to him, or just enjoy the. I mean, don't attach yourself, and then that will give you
Mhm.
things, because you don't want to be high highs and low lows, right? You want to be
Mhm.
equanimous through all of that.
Yeah, and it's so important in tech, right? Because no company is ever always winning. You always
Exactly.
have to like brace
Exactly.
yourself
You
and
would be like high today, tomorrow you get some severity zero. You're like, oh no,
exactly,
big deal
exactly.
the next day. So you need to keep yourself sort of calm, because it's important as leaders too, right?
Mhm.
Because if you are panicked, if you are anxious, you're going to transmit that energy down your chain, and
Mm.
that's not healthy for an organization. So it's important to be able to be that shock absorber and really lead your team through challenges or through success as well, right? In a sort of that equanimous manner.
Yeah. So facing the biggest challenge with calm with your team, so you
Correct.
can come
Biggest
together.
challenge and biggest success, right? Like don't,
Mhm.
yeah, don't go high and don't go low.
Love that mindset. Okay, now let's talk about risk taking. What's a big professional leap you took that scared you but changed everything?
I think jumping to Salesforce was a huge risk,
Hmm.
right? Because I was very, very well settled in my previous sort of company in a great thing. And here to sort of jump into a company at that time I did not know, with no team. I was running a large organization to
Right.
kind of start as an IC again. It was a big jump. But in hindsight, it's probably one of the best learnings in my career that I've had. So I think so sometimes you have to take a risk, and the risk is what gives you the rewards.
Yeah, in fact, you were given like the DMP product, which then you transformed it into data cloud.
Yeah, in fact, we literally had like no team to start off with, right?
Mhm.
We had to go figure out how to even create a team, and we sort of brought a lot of people together across the world. It was like
Yeah.
7 time zones, and to create a product out of that was a great testament to sort of the teams coming together to believe in something, create,
Yeah.
and then success sort of roll from there.
Yeah, making the impossible real. Okay, the fourth question, humility. When was the last time you said, "Hey, I was wrong," and what did you learn from that?
Oh, I do that every day with my wife. But no, on a serious note, though, it's even just last week. I think every uh, both AI or also even techniques that you thought are always changing. More recently, just this week, I was talking to one of the teams that had implemented sort of a row level hierarchy through some mechanism which I didn't think could possibly work because of what I had learned back at Oracle.
Mhm.
And they taught me, and they kind of gave me enough proof to show how sort of the new techniques they had developed in memory, that they could do it very efficiently in 30 milliseconds, which I couldn't believe. And so that was a learning experience, and I had to go back and admit I was wrong, right? Like I had assumed
Mhm.
that it wouldn't work, and I think it was great to see the team come back saying, "Nope, it will work, and here's proof why it would work." I think that was a good learning, and like I said, happens every other week where you had assumptions, maybe true, may not be true anymore, and you adjust and kind of learn from it to make it. That's what knowledge is, right? You always constantly learn.
Yeah, and that approachable kind of style and also your humility in admitting that probably unlocks a lot more possibilities in the teams. Then
Absolutely.
they see the possibility of influencing you and changing your mind.
That yes, that's a really important point, because equally, I think you need to have a team that can say no to you,
Mhm.
right? That is not a weakness, that's a strength.
Mhm.
Because if all you just keep are people who will just say yes to you, you're probably going to fail, and you probably won't even know it. and you want to sync with everybody, right?
Mhm.
You do need people who can stand up, not stand up in the sense of just fighting for no reason, but really stand up when they feel, hey, this is probably something you don't know, and sort of teach you. And we learn together. And maybe I was right sometimes,
Yeah.
I was wrong sometimes, but it's as a collective learning.
Yeah, and you bring out the best in people. That's
Thank you.
amazing. Okay, the last one. Okay, vision wise, if you're a future CTO 10 years from now, listen to this podcast. What would the one message be?
Was a tricky one, right? In the sense, 10 years from now, is that an AI CTO or is that a human CTO or a human with a Neuralink CTO? I don't know. It really depends. I think I would say if it's an AI CTO, I would say learn empathy, learn to empathize would be my thing. If it's a human CTO, I would just say continue with what you do, which is be curious and be passionate. I think new technologies will always keep coming. Things will change. Today's AI, tomorrow maybe it's quantum. Day after it may be who knows, space flights to Mars. New technologies are always going to change, and it's going to make us better. But if you keep curiosity, passion, and humility with you, it will take you a long way.
My bet is there's always going to be a human CTO powered by AI. And what you talk about on the curiosity, the connection, the love will always stay. This is what drives humanity.
Yes,
So thank you. Thank you so much for for being on this podcast with me. I've had such an amazing time and learned so much from you. Thank you, MK.
thank you, Vivian. It's been a great podcast here. Thank you all.